Assalamu alaikum, family. Peace be unto you. Welcome to the Sajdah channel. We are having a very special discussion today. We're discussing a report that talks about how minorities are being denied access to the U.S. economy. And this is important for us as conscious entrepreneurs because we need to understand what we're up against, why it's important that we strategize, why it's important that we unify, why it's important that we pool our resources, why it's important that we stop criticizing one another, why it's important that we work together and redefine what the Black economy means, what buying Black means, especially today when many of us are scattered across the country and across the world. We have to consciously support one another. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So grab a friend, grab some coffee. This is a two-part series. We're going to go through about half of the report today and the second half of the report tomorrow. And we'll go from there. We'll be back a couple minutes. Don't go too far.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judges, and none can judge against Thee. And he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive, and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to overcome obstacles. There is no life that is without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost. No wonder the Bible...
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you, family. Welcome to the Sajdah channel. And today we are going to be discussing a very special report that reports on how minorities are being denied access to the U.S. economy. And I think this is important from a strategic standpoint for us to understand and take a look at as conscious entrepreneurs who are vested and introducing the much needed goods and services into our community. And it's important for us to understand some of the strategies that are being used to deny that, and for us to prepare ourselves so that when incidents and things happen in our businesses, we lose sales, customers start to decrease, different things like that. We have to understand what is causing it. All right. One of the things that I think is important is that we have to redefine the concept of the Black community. Oftentimes, some of the references to the Black community are referring to a geographical location. And there are still many Black geographical communities out here in our country. But there's also the virtual and digital communities that have to be incorporated in that definition of the Black community. So in other words, instead of being able to say, well, I'm going to shop at this grocery store that is Black owned in my community, maybe there's somebody online that you can support. Maybe there's a digital resource that you can stand behind that is a member of your community. And so these things are very important today because we are now living in a world where, with the system that we've all been fixated to morphing and crumbling, there are certain actions committed by the broader community to cushion that fall and to block any wealth shift. And this is not just for Black people to understand either, because if you're white and you're not part of that 10%, then you're part of that blocking. You're partly being blocked as well. My interest, because as a Black woman, as a Black Muslim woman, my interest is, number one, supporting the economic development mentality, mindset, proper handling of people as taught to us in the Nation of Islam by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then to support people who look like me, okay? Black women who oftentimes go unpersoned and unnoticed, but who are great makers of history and make great contributions to not only the U.S. economy, but to our country and to the world. So I'm dedicated to us as Black women, as Black Muslim women, who also are unpersoned often. Many times our contributions to our communities are written off, ignored, not mentioned, not documented. That's important to me. And then our Black community, and just finding ways in which I can support Black entrepreneurs, Black people wanting to go into business, helping us to navigate in a world of business that we have not been taught to navigate in. Okay. So I want to start with a short speech that many of you may be familiar with. It's a speech by Malcolm X in 1964 called The Ballot or the Bullet. And the reason why I talked about us mentally redefining the Black community is because he's going to make a lot of references to the Black community this and the Black community that. And so some of us don't feel like that applies to us anymore because maybe we don't live in a so-called Black community. Well, now your Black community is virtual. Your community, your family, it's virtual. Okay. So you want to think about recirculating your dollars among people that look like you and who are more likely to support and help you and your family should you find yourself in need. Okay. This is important. So yeah, let's take a look at that, and then I'll be back and we're going to get into this report.
The political philosophy of Black nationalism only means that the Black man should control the politics and the politicians in his own community. The time when white people can come in our community and get us to vote for them so that they can be our political leaders and tell us what to do and what not to do is long gone. By the same token, the time when that same white man, knowing that your eyes are too far open, can send another Negro into the community, get you and me to support him so he can use him to lead us astray, those days are long gone. The political philosophy of Black nationalism only means that if you and I are going to live in a Black community, and that's where we're going to live, because as soon as you move into as soon as you move out of the Black community into their community, it's mixed for a period of time, but they are gone, and you're right there all by yourself. We must understand the politics of our community, and we must know what politics is supposed to produce. We must know what part politics play in our lives. And until we become politically mature, we will always be misled, led astray, or deceived or maneuvered into supporting someone politically who doesn't have the good of our community at heart. So the political philosophy of Black nationalism only means that we will have to carry on a political program of re-education to open our people's eyes, make us become more politically conscious, politically mature. And then we will, whenever we get ready to cast our ballot, that ballot will be cast for a man of the community who has the good of the community at heart. And the economic philosophy of Black nationalism only means that we should own and operate and control the economy of our community. You would never find, you can't open up a Black store in a white community. White man won't even patronize you. And he's not wrong. He got sense enough to look out for himself. And you who don't have sense enough to look out for yourself. The white man is too intelligent to let someone else come and gain control of the economy of his community. But you will let anybody come in and control the economy of your community, control the housing, control the education, control the jobs, control the businesses under the pretext that you want to integrate. No, you're out of your mind. The economic philosophy of black nationalism only means that we have to become involved in a program of re-education to educate our people into the importance of knowing that when you spend your dollar out of the community in which you live, the community in which you spend your money becomes richer and richer. The community out of which you take your money becomes poorer and poorer. And because these Negroes who have been misled, misguided, are breaking their necks to take their money and spend it with the man is becoming richer and richer, and you're becoming poorer and poorer. And then what happens? The community in which you live becomes a slum. It becomes a ghetto. The conditions become run down. And then you have the audacity to complain about poor housing in a rundown community. Why, you run it down yourself when you take your dollar out. And you and I are in a double trap, because not only do we lose by taking our money someplace else and spending it, when we try and spend it in our own community, we're trapped because we haven't had sense enough to set up stores and control the businesses of our community. The man who's controlling the stores in our community is a man who doesn't look like we do. He's a man who doesn't even live in the community. So you and I, even when we try and spend our money in the block where we live or the area where we live, we're spending it with a man who, when the sun goes down, takes that basket full of money in another part of the town. So we're trapped, double trapped, triple trapped. Anywhere we go, we find that we're trapped. And every kind of solution that someone comes up with is just another trap. But the political and economic philosophy of black nationalism, the economic philosophy of black nationalism shows our people the importance of setting up these little stores and developing them and expanding them into larger operations. Woolworth didn't start out big like they are today. They started out with a dime store and expanded and expanded and expanded until today they're all over the country and all over the world, and they're getting some of everybody's money. Now, this is what you and I in General Motors, the same way, didn't start out like it is. It started out just a little rat race type operation, and it expanded and expanded until today it's where it is right now. And you and I have to make a start. And the best place to start is right in the community where we live. So our people not only have to be re-educated to the importance of supporting black business, but the black man himself has to be made aware of the importance of going into business. And once you and I go into business, we own and operate at least the businesses in our community. What we will be doing is developing a situation wherein we will actually be able to create employment for the people in the community. And once you can create some employment in the community where you live, it will eliminate the necessity of you and me having to act ignorantly and disgracefully, boycotting and picketing someplace else, trying to beg him for a job.
So that was The Ballad or the Bullet by Malcolm X, 1964, as you saw there at the end of the video. And much of that is true today. Some of the vernacular has changed. We don't go by Negro, or they don't call us Negroes anymore. We don't identify as Negroes anymore, and some of that kind of stuff. But a lot of that has changed. And so has not changed, I should say. A lot of that has not changed. Excuse me, I misspoke. So let's get into this report. All right, I'm going to put this up on the screen here. This is the 2023 Special Report on Efforts to Deny Minorities Equal Access to the U.S. Economy. I learned of this report because I sit on a healthcare task force run by the FSIC, and I actually learned about this organization and some of the great work that they are doing through being a part of that task force. The contents of this report are very powerful. We're going to go through it. We'll get through about half of it today. These are the three gentlemen that produced the report. That's the forward and notes on the revision. I work closely with both Kevin and Brady on the healthcare task force. And I thought it would be very interesting to kind of dig through this particular report today. Okay. FSIC, Economic Inclusion Reverse Discrimination Defense Initiative. Over the years, the forces of intolerance have continued to thwart efforts to bring about economic inclusion and empowerment. From the Croson and Andoran cases, those who wish to stop African Americans from participating in the U.S. economy have used the legal system to stop any efforts at affirmative action. Recently, as the U.S. tried to yet again to come to grips with the long history of racism, these forces have again sought to thwart the efforts of the government to provide opportunities to minorities. Okay, here's some previous examples that are pointed out in the report. A group of white farmers has sued the U.S. Department of Agriculture over its loan forgiveness program for farmers of color, claiming race discrimination. I want to say this too. One of the things that as I watch the political issues unfolding, I really appreciate Vice President Kamala Harris in addressing a lot of the issues that minority businesses are facing. I want to see more. Of course, that's an agenda that's important to me. I want to see more about like the George Floyd bill and the anti-hate crimes against Black people. I want to see that as a bill. But I think that some of the issues here in this report is the reason why they're not going as hard on it as they could, or maybe even should. It's talked about, behind closed doors, and those of us who support, we believe wholeheartedly that, the administration under Vice President Harris is going to address these things directly and that there would be solutions. We just have not heard about it. And so I want to share some of what's going on behind the scenes in the legal system that are probably scaring a lot of people, and it's designed that way, and preventing them from really going, okay, we're going hard on making sure that the Black community has the resources that it needs. Anyway, let me give you a couple. Another example, a group of business owners and advocates in Tennessee and Texas has sued the Small Business Administration when it gave a 21-day exclusive application opportunity to minority restaurants under the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. This is even though the data showed that less than 1% of SBA funds had been going to minority businesses. Okay, I hope you guys are paying attention to this. Here's the third one. A consumer group has filed a reverse discrimination lawsuit against the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission over its board diversity proposal. So these are major institutions and major programs that are being legally challenged because they are programs that, if they work and if they're implemented, could actually provide resources for those of us who desire those resources in the Black community. So you go back, you got the farmers, okay, the U.S. Department of Agriculture being sued for helping Black farmers. You have the Small Business Administration being sued for helping specifically Black businesses, minority businesses, but we know what the code language is. Then you have the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission being sued over board diversity. Now, you all have heard me talk on this show many times about how important it is that companies diversify their board of directors. When I first graduated from college and I took my first job in Indianapolis, Indiana, I was part of a board of directors training program that was put together by Mr. Henry Bundles, and I can't remember the name of his organization, but they trained us on how to sit on boards, how to run the board, how to be in committees on boards, how to manage various personalities, and how to lead. I was in that leadership training program. And so I always say, if I'm a company out here and I'm looking to diversify, pick somebody like me. I got the credentials. I can bring diversity. I can help you bridge the gap between your customers or the streets and the boardroom that you're in. But when companies don't actively seek out people like myself, or they don't know that we exist, because maybe they've never met us, then somebody said, yeah, you can go to my Dr. Jacques McDonald. You can go to my Facebook page and there's a link there. Okay. And you can download the report, but there's a link on my Facebook page, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. Then programs that are put together by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission that promote board diversity are important. But now they're being sued. So what do you think that does to these organizations? Let's go into some of these current examples. A group founded by the conservative activists instrumental in the U.S. Supreme Court June decision rejecting affirmative action in collegiate admissions sued an Atlanta-based venture capital fund that supports Black women who own small businesses, accusing it of unlawful racial discrimination. There again, another organization attacked. And so people are scared of being sued. These organizations don't want to be in court. They don't want to be exposed. They don't want that. And so I just hit you with 4 major institutions. Let's keep going. 13 Republican attorneys generals wrote a letter to leaders of Fortune 100 companies warning them against using race as a factor in hiring and promotion decisions in light of the recent Supreme Court ruling ending the practice of affirmative action in college admissions. Okay. A legal group run by former Trump aide Stephen Miller added the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to investigate the Kellogg Company over its policies and programs, which the group said are infused with woke ideology. Are y'all listening? So now you have, I come out of corporate America. I spent many, many years as a business consultant and a business developer. And I know how important many of these programs are to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. But there's another one, Kellogg, embroiled. Let's keep going. The Small Business Administration, the federal agency that administers the 8A Business Development Program, recently suspended 8A applications in response to a federal district court injunction following the Supreme Court's decision in Students for Fair Admissions, Inc. versus President and Fellows of Harvard College, in which the court limited the role race and ethnicity may play in college admissions. A federal district court has applied the Supreme Court reasoning to SBA 8A programs. If you want the report, you can go to my Facebook page, which is Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. I have a link there, and you can download a copy of the report and check it out for yourself. Let's go to the next page. So this is from my friend Kevin Kimball, DC Bureau Chief, and he wrote this letter here as part of the SCLC. I'll let you guys read that. You know what? I'll read it because I think it's a powerful letter. SCLC to Kevin Kimball, DC Bureau Chief. I think this is from the SCLC to Kevin and Charles Brooks, the General Counsel. Dr. Jock McDonald said, "This is pathetic." Jackie, is it Jock? Might be Jackie. This is pathetic, but we must be aware of what is going on to undercover and create a path of destruction aimed at Black and brown people. We got to know what's going on, because otherwise we can't really strategize, because all kind of stuff is happening to us. We're getting traumas. We're becoming traumatically affected, but we don't really understand what's at play here. Why are you all of a sudden struggling to meet payroll? Why are you all of a sudden wondering what's happening with your customers? Why are you all of a sudden seeing competition moving in on your territory and all of that? Well, there's a lot of help. So anyway, this is a letter that the SCLC wrote to the, Charles Brooks, General Counsel of the SCLC, wrote to Kevin. Jackie. Okay, thank you. The federal date July 9, 2021. The federal government has long attempted to implement policies to maximize procurement opportunities for small businesses owned and controlled by socially, economically disadvantaged individuals. In 1978, Congress amended the Small Business Act to require federal agencies to, among other things, negotiate annually in good faith with the Small Business Administration to establish prime and subprime contracting goals for these businesses. Okay, I think this should be top of the agenda in this political race. The United States, that's my take in. That's not Attorney Charles. The United States government created the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs. A minority contractor can avail themselves of agency-level protests. However, such actions have a very low success rate. The Government Accountability Office typically provides the next level of intervention where limited discovery is allowed. The Federal Acquisition Regulation requires an issued result within 100 days of submission. The efforts of such policies have not created a class of minority contractors who are consistently utilized for federal government contract work. Minority-owned businesses do not receive their fair share of available contracting opportunities. Let me add my 2 cents in here. Many of these major corporations that you guys know of that become your competition and that price gouge and price fix and become these big box institutions that you are up against in your community got their start or are being sustained through government contracts. Let me move on. The SCLC seeks the expansive power of the federal government to protect minority contractors in states which demonstrate overt hostility to minority rights. The overwhelming majority of minority-owned businesses reside in the Southeast. The SCLC tracks the impediments to achieving partly in the contracting sphere to mirror the states which attempt to impose restrictions on minority voting opportunities. Contractors hired under personal services contracts operate like government employees. I'm going to say that again. That's important. Contractors hired under personal services contracts operate like government employees. The federal government reported spending about $1.5 billion on personal services contracts for fiscal years 2011 to 2015. The U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Army, the U.S. Navy, and the U.S. Agency for International Development together were responsible for most of the reported spending. We're talking about a lot of these independent contracts that you can get through the U.S. government. That's what we're talking about. The executive branch maintains the ability to enforce proper and proportional distribution of all federal contracts throughout the U.S. The SCLC process proposes we emphasize compliance with equitable distribution of resources in states with large minority populations. Between January 1st and May 14th, 2021, at least 14 states enacted 22 new laws that restrict access to voting. The executive branch can increase scrutiny in any of the 14 states without the participation of the legislative branch. The SCLC seeks an executive order to emphasize majority contracting compliance in any state which passed a new wave of voter restrictions. That was written by Charles Brooks, who is general counsel for the SCLC. Let's move on with the report. Today, we are discussing this report that outlines how minorities are being denied access to the U.S. economy. What is our purpose of highlighting this? So that we understand what is happening to us and we can stop allowing trauma to set in and start strategizing and putting the principles in place directed or given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that if we just did those things, unite, pool our resources, and stop all the wanton criticism, that's just a few of the things he told us, we can work through some of this stuff. Let's keep going. This next section here talks about conservative activists behind U.S. affirmative action cases sues venture capital fund, okay, by Nate Raymond. August 2nd, Reuters, a group founded by the conservative activists instrumental in the U.S. Supreme Court's June decision rejecting affirmative action in collegiate admissions on Wednesday, sued an Atlanta-based venture capital fund that supports Black women who own small businesses, accusing it of unlawful racial discrimination. I'm going to read that again. They sued, okay, an Atlanta-based venture capital fund. So a venture capital fund based in Atlanta that was going to support businesses owned by Black women was sued. Okay, we talked about all the other government organizations that have been sued. This is why people are trigger happy about helping us and why we have to get up and do something for ourselves. This particular venture capital fund was sued, okay, accusing it of unlawful racial discrimination. The nonprofit American Alliance for Equal Rights, founded by affirmative action foe Edward Bloom, said in its lawsuit that the firm called Fearless Fund is violating Section 1981 of the Civil Rights Act of 1866, a U.S. law barring racial bias in private contracts by making only Black women eligible in a grant competition. It was filed in federal court in Atlanta. So, y'all wondering why? Why don't they do this for Black people? Why ain't nobody talking about reparations? Because of these lawsuits. Fearless Fund was launched in 2019 by 3 prominent Black women. Actress Keisha Knight Pulliam. Y'all remember Keisha Knight Pulliam, Lil Rudy from Cosby Show? Entrepreneur Arian Simone and corporate executive Ayanna Parsons and counts of investors such as Bank of America, Costco Wholesale, General Mills, MasterCard, and JP Morgan Chase. So they started this VC fund, went out and made partnerships in corporate America with some really great large companies that are probably doing a lot of business with Black people. The lawsuits brought by another group founded by Bloom led to the Supreme Court June ruling declaring unlawful the race-conscious student admissions policy used by Harvard University and the University of North Carolina. The new lawsuit is Bloom's first since the decision. The conservative majority court rejected policies used by many U.S. colleges and universities to use race as one of multiple factors in admissions in order to boost enrollment of Black, Hispanic, and certain other minority efforts. Many of you all went to college and you had a minority student affairs department. There were, special scholarships and fundings for Black people, especially if you came out of an urban area. Okay. This is what they're talking about. What they're saying is you can't do that no more. Okay. The lawsuit centers on the Fearless Funds. I just told you who the Fearless Fund is. Okay. Strivers Grant Contest, which awards Black women who own small businesses $20,000 in grants, digital tools to help them grow their businesses, and mentorships opportunities provided in conjunction with MasterCard. Okay. Bloom and the Texas-based American Alliance for Equal Rights said some of the group's approximately 60 members, white and Asian Americans, have been excluded from the grant program due to their race. Of course, you're excluded from the program. It's for Black women. Fearless Fund did not immediately respond to requests for comment in an interview. Bloom said the lawsuit was the first of many to happen to pursue. He hopes to pursue through the American Alliance for Equal Rights to broadly challenge the race-based policies used by private corporations. So in other words, the attack is on against private companies whose CEOs have said, you know what? Yeah, we want to do more business with the Black community. We want to support the Black community. Well, guess what? Now they're being sued. And since they're being sued, they're going, we're not helping no more. What does that mean for us? I don't want you guys to sit here and go, yep, see, they. Well, guess what this means? Guys, start speaking French now. We. When you see a small business in need, we're going to have to get together and pool our resources. We're going to have to get together and drive businesses to them. We're going to have to create organizations so that we support and do for ourselves. This right here is telling us that all this rugged individualism that we're practicing, we're going to have to stop. And that even some of our partners in the broader community, or people who want to partner with us in the broader community, are being sued and being shut down and silenced and prevented from partnering. Here's another report. GOP attorneys general urge corporations against using affirmative action to hire and promote. Okay. This is written by Sarah Fortinsky. 13 Republican attorneys general wrote a letter to leaders of Fortune 100 companies Thursday, warning them against using race as a factor in hiring and promotion decisions in light of the recent Supreme Court ruling ending the practice of affirmative action in college admissions. So you see what they did. They won the case against using race-based practices or affirmative action in college admissions, and they used that precedence to now stop and shut it down on the corporate level. So in the letter, the chief legal officers of their respective states made clear that the Supreme Court's decision rendering affirmative action in college admissions unconstitutional created a legal precedent, I just said that the attorneys general said must apply to their corporations as well. They threatened legal action if the companies do not comply. In other words, if y'all don't shut down this affirmative action and stop hiring people based on race, stop giving a boost to these Black contractors and these Black organizations and these Black people. So in other words, you guys have a program where you go to the National Black Society of this and the National Black Organization, and you're looking. And this happened a lot when I was in college. We had the National Society of Black Engineers, the National Association of Black Accountants. We had the National Black MBA Association. There were all organizations I know I participated in. And then they would have interview days and people would come, and a lot of companies were really into it. And so they had budgets that they set aside for Black Enterprise Conference, and they would come there and hire people. What they saying is that we're going to sue them if they keep doing that. The Supreme Court's recent decision should place every employer and contractor on notice of the illegality of racial quotas and race-based preferences in employment and contracting practices, they wrote in the letter. If your company previously resorted to racial preferences or naked quotas to offset its bigotry, that discriminatory path is now definitively closed. Your company must overcome its underlying bias and treat all employees, all applicants, and all contractors equally without regard to race, they continued. So it's interesting because what they're saying is the language that they're hiding behind is that what they're doing is forcing the companies to throw away bigotry and get rid of all the isms. They know that that's a big task. So instead of forcing them to hire minorities in certain positions or forcing them to have diversity on boards in certain positions, what they're saying is, we're not doing that no more. The attorneys general claimed racial discrimination was still common among many companies, even discrimination with benign effects. The warning suggests that taking into account a person's race in any way would be a violation of the law and considered racial discrimination. It goes on to say, we urge you to immediately cease any unlawful race-based quotas or preferences your company has adopted for its employment and contracting practices, they wrote. If you choose not to do so, know that you will be held accountable sooner rather than later for your decision to continue treating people differently because of the color of their skin. You see how they took the words, man, and done flipped them around. This is powerful. The attorney generals of Kansas, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Indiana, Nebraska, Iowa, South Carolina, Kentucky, West Virginia, Mississippi, Missouri, and Montana signed the letter. In a recent Pew survey, a majority of workers indicated they view diversity at work as a good thing. At 56%, 16% said it was a bad thing, and 28% said it was neither good nor bad. The same survey indicated most workers have some experience with diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in their jobs, but a relatively small share of workers place a lot of importance on those efforts, with only 3 in 10 saying it's extremely or very important to them. While the Supreme Court ruling ending affirmative action focused solely on university admissions, the letter represents the potential for reaching effects the decision might still have. This one is where Kellogg's was sued, or they filed a complaint. They sued them for their woke programs. They sued them. I'll just read a little bit of this one. A legal group run by former Trump aide Stephen Miller on Wednesday asked the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or the EEOC, to investigate Kellogg Company over its policies and programs, which the group said are infused with woke ideology. Y'all know Kellogg's, the cereal people. In a letter to the EEOC, America's first legal foundation, senior counselor Reed D. Rubenstein wrote the Kellogg's, a publicly traded company, engages in unlawful employment practices by seeking to balance its workforce based on race, color, national origin, and sex. Couple comments from the chat. Sandra D said, this sounds like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad saying they won't have enough jobs for themselves, let alone us. Seriously deserving suit. Yeah, this is changing the landscape, and I don't even think we realize it. I don't even think we realize it. And this is going to be impactful to us. Brother Troy said, that's what we get for not doing it on our own. Yeah. Brother Robert 11X Minor said, the information you share is so solid that I have to share. We will never get justice in America on no level. We must pool our resources and do for self. We have to. We must. Whoa, that's why I say voting for judges locally first is the most important thing to know when voting. Scandalous. Yeah. You better know those judges, because even when this comes up a little bit later, okay, so some of these people are, look at this ignorant person put this up here. So you understand real Islam. Didn't nobody ask you all of this? So you are blocked. You're gonna be getting off of our live. We trying to study and pool our resources and learn here so that we can strategize, and you up here writing ignorant statements. Blocked. Sister Jackie said, these types of attacks are happening because many white people realize that minorities, specifically Black people, in the face of trauma, adversity, tragedy, stress, and threats, that we are resilient. We must start and recognize that we must work together for the benefit of our people. That's right, Sister Jackie, Dr. Jackie. Pooling our resources, uniting. Okay. Let's see. Let's find this one. They sued them. Y'all get the gist of it. This one, the SBA suspended the 8A applications following federal district court injunction. A lot of Black people have found aid and assistance through the Small Business Administration. But check this out. You see, those applications got suspended. You got to go and read this report. Go to my Facebook page and download it. The court ruled that the 8A program's use of a rebuttal presumption failed the strict scrutiny test, which requires a compelling government interest for use of a rebuttal presumption, and that the program be narrowly tailored. Citing the Supreme Court's Student for Fair Admissions decision. So that decision that they got about admissions, they used that basically to shut down the 8A program for the SBA. The U.S. District Court has denied the SBA the ability to apply the rebuttal presumption of disadvantaged status for minorities, reversing decades of equity and inclusion policy. So, yeah, thank you, Brother Garland. Thank you. Brother Garland said, valuable information. Thanks for highlighting this. We have another report that we're going to be doing coming up. I'm just studying it and going through it so we can talk about it. But here's some potential outcomes of this that I want to read. Ultimately, the court ruled in favor of the plaintiff, a small non-minority owned business ineligible for the 8A program. While the full effect of the decision, including the impact on current participants, is unclear, it has already impacted the 8A program. Last week, the SBA officially suspended applications in response to the court's injunction and is now revising its application questionnaire to comply with the court's decision. Potential changes to the program may include, for example, a change to the eligibility criteria. The district court took issue with the fact that historically, the 8A program has not considered whether an applicant was socially and economically disadvantaged for the particular industry in which the applicant operated. The SBA may examine the issue and could make certain changes accordingly, perhaps using the women-owned small business program. As an example, if the SBA makes this change, the review process for 8A applications may well be longer and program eligibility altered as well. This ruling has caused havoc with many businesses in the loan approval queue. Why are their needs not considered in this case? It's also impacted a change in the SBA's ability to accept a procurement. The regulations at 13 CFR Section 124.502 and 124.504 outline rules for an agency intending to award a procurement as an 8A contract and the SBA's limit on accepting 8A offerings from agencies. These regulations consider the impact on small businesses or other small business programs an 8A procurement may have, and also the number of 8A contracts already awarded in a particular industry. However, they do not explicitly consider whether any racial group is underrepresented in a particular industry relevant to a specific contract in the 8A program. The 8A program's future is in flux, meaning businesses now 8A qualified or considering applying to the program should monitor these legal developments and any resulting SBA regulatory changes pending the SBA's decision whether to appeal the ultimate case or otherwise modify the 8A program as a result of the recent ruling. Conservative Starbucks investor loses diversity challenge. Y'all know how much money y'all spend at Starbucks. And Starbucks had a few issues. And so they started a very aggressive DEI program in trying to support Black businesses. But check out what has happened. All right. A U.S. judge on Friday dismissed as frivolous a conservative activist investor's lawsuit against Starbucks board for the coffee chain's diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. So somebody tried to sue them saying that they shouldn't have diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. The National Center for Public Policy Research sued in August 2022 over Starbucks' setting of hiring goals for Black and other people of color, awarding contracts to diverse suppliers and advertisers, and tying executive pay to diversity. Okay. The nonprofit, which holds around $6,000 in Starbucks stock, said those policies require the company to make race-based decisions that violate federal and state civil rights laws. Chief U.S. District Judge Stanley Bastian in Spokane, Washington, rejected the allegations at a hearing in the case on Friday, saying the lawsuit centered the public policy questions that are for lawmakers and corporations, not courts, to decide. This is in 2023. If the plaintiff doesn't want to be invested in woke corporate America, perhaps it should seek other investment opportunities rather than wasting this court's time, he said. That's what the judge said. Starbucks said it was pleased with the decision and said it remains committed to creating a culture of warmth and belonging. Starbucks attorney Gregory Watts argued at the hearing that NCPPR has condemned evils perpetrated by woke corporate America and that the group has made demands of many other corporations, including JP Morgan Chase and American Airlines Group. The use of such language shows what is motivating plaintiffs, and it is not the business interests of Starbucks, he said. The lawsuit is similar to those filed recently by conservative activist groups opposing corporate diversity and inclusion efforts in the wake of the June Supreme Court ruling. The ruling declared unlawful the race-conscious student admissions policies used by Harvard University and the University of North Carolina. So you all see how they keep using this ruling as a reason to attack these companies who, and I love the way the CEO of Starbucks said this. Starbucks said it was pleased with the decision and said it remains committed to creating a culture of warmth and belonging. So, you know, we're talking about conscious entrepreneurship all the time on this channel, creating cultures of warmth, belonging, introducing much needed goods and services into our community. These lawsuits are attacks against that type of capitalism being practiced, if you will. So in this case, this conservative group was denied in its attempt to block Starbucks from pursuing equity and inclusion. So this is what we're up against. So we're talking about creating a system and business models that include warmth, that include belonging inside of the workplace, but that also introduce much needed goods and services into the communities. We're learning etiquette in terms of not price gouging and how to properly price our products, how to be united, how to support other small businesses and businesses that have interests that align with ours. This is what we're talking about. But what these lawsuits are doing is saying, nuh-uh, you can't do that. You got to do business the way we want you to do it. This is the business that most don't know about when you don't do for self nor constantly studying these types of challenges. Yeah. Look at Progressive Insurance, sued for patently unlawful racism for offering a $25,000 grant only for Black-owned businesses. Y'all see this? We're going to go a little longer than 7 o'clock on this today because we into it. I think this is great. And when we come back tomorrow, let's get through the report today. We come back tomorrow. I want you all to bring your questions and your comments, and let's just share and talk and strategize. But look at Progressive Insurance, sued for putting up a $25,000 grant for Black-owned businesses. Progressive Insurance famed for its quirky commercials starring fictional saleswoman Flo, y'all know Flo, is being sued for patently unlawful racism for awarding exclusively Black-owned businesses $25,000 while allegedly banning white, Asian, Hispanic, and owners of other backgrounds from applying. This is the part that's crazy to me. And this is what is out here in the world, if you will. If I say I'm pro-Black, then all of a sudden you just automatically extrapolate that I don't like Asian people, or that I got an issue with white people, or I got an issue with anybody that's not Black. No, I'm just down for my family. Look at this. They're saying that if progressives say, you know what, let's do a $25,000 grant for Black-owned businesses. Let's do that. Then all of a sudden, the Asians and the white people and the Hispanics, y'all tripping. There's plenty of programs. There's a whole bill, an anti-hate bill for Asians. And we should have been had that. But don't get me started. The lawsuit filed on behalf of Freedom Truck Dispatch owner Nathan Roberts in Ohio federal court on Wednesday claims that Progressive racially discriminated against non-Black small business owners like Roberts for offering a 5-figure award to 10 Black-owned small businesses to use toward the purchase of a commercial vehicle. The class action suit, which was filed by the anti-radical left group American First Legal, AFL, claimed that on May 24th, Roberts, a Progressive customer, received an email about a grant opportunity for their Progressive commercial trucking and business owners. However, Progressive decided that only Black-owned businesses would be eligible for these grants because, according to the insurance company studies have shown how inequities have made it harder for Black entrepreneurs to access capital. We know that all too well on this channel. Very difficult for Black entrepreneurs to access capital. We got to jump through hoops, give up a heart, a kidney, a leg, and a lung just to get capital for some of our programs. We got to start creating community funds. There's enough money in our community. Yeah, this is unbelievable. All right, so There's a bunch of other articles here. The SEC got sued for approving NASDAQ's racist, sexist board diversity rules. The SEC got sued. Securities and Exchange Commission. So these are major organizations that are being attacked and being hit with these lawsuits. And so we have to think about, how do we use this same system, if we can, to fight back? And at the same time, how do we unite? SEC sued for approving NASDAQ's DEI program. Y'all can read that in the report. They want to stop the SEC from promoting diversity. The Securities and Exchange Commission. So if they can stop the Securities and Exchange Commission from promoting diversity, think about the other ways in which they can leverage that decision, just like they leverage the admissions decision to create all these other lawsuits. And then people are writing articles saying, well, you know what? When the Small Business Administration said, and this is where mathematically it don't make sense. If the majority of small and startup businesses in the country, okay, that they serve are usually minority businesses, and if the most disadvantaged of those minority businesses are Black-owned businesses, and if women-owned businesses are further disadvantaged, I would also argue that Black male-owned businesses are the most disadvantaged. But however you see it, Black businesses being the most disadvantaged, then why wouldn't the SBA or the SEC or any of these organizations want to support and help us, since maybe we have challenges with access to capital? Then we go, all right, we got $1 trillion worth of spending in our community. Okay, it's a lot of money. And so when these businesses put their boards together, they're saying to themselves, we want access to some of that $1 trillion. So we're going to create positions for Black people to come and be on the board because they got access and they got their hooks into the creativity within their community. And then these people saying, oh, no, you don't. And no, you won't. All right. Look at this. Even though Black-owned businesses only receive 1% of PPP loans, conservative groups sued to stop SBA from pursuing a policy of economic inclusion. So when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad tells us to get up and do something for ourselves, stop begging the white man for what we could do for ourselves. We can change our lives, y'all, just by supporting one another. That's just the start. It's a whole lot of things we need to do. So I don't want some of y'all who would be critical of me bringing up the Honorable Elijah Muhammad saying, well, we got to do more than that. No, he has an entire program that he's given us. And those of us that follow him are preparing ourselves for leadership, and we've been prepared. And we will be the best leaders that you all have ever seen come out of anything in America, because we have the divine guidance of Almighty God Allah, even in our efforts of trade and commerce. I'm just saying. You may not have listened to the ballad or the bullet that we played at the beginning. And Malcolm X was teaching and sharing the life-giving principles of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Life-altering, life-giving, life-changing principles. You might not have listened to that in the 60s. Here we are in 2023, because in the 60s, after the ballad or the bullet, around the 70s and 80s, they started all these programs and we got happy, like, oh, we got jobs. We ain't got to do for self. We can get a government contract. Now they're saying, no, you can't. No, you can't. Because everywhere you go and you participate in a grant program, a DEI program, if the company still has it, we're going to give them hell. We're going to keep them tied up in court. And most people don't want to get sued. And they don't want to have to go to court, including many of our political candidates. So now, guess what? During that time, when we had the opportunity, when we were given access, what little access it was, into these spaces, we did not take advantage of it. We did not go in there, get the knowledge and bring it back to our communities. We didn't do enough pulling each other up. And now they're like, okay, well, no more businesses. Well, let me say this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this tomorrow, because since you all are making most of us unemployable, because you got all these restrictions and you don't even have enough jobs for yourself, let alone us. And most of us are unemployable. And since many of these unemployable people got to eat, guess what? They're going to start businesses. Everybody's not a criminal. Everybody's not going to turn to a life of crime just because you deny employment opportunities. There are people who are striving to be righteous and striving to be law-abiding citizens. And so everybody's not going to turn to scamming and criminal behavior like you might want to make it seem like. Everybody out here doing all this crazy stuff. The majority of Black people are good law-abiding citizens. Yeah, we got our challenges in our community, but everybody ain't running around here ratchet. We're going to start businesses. We're going to do business in our community. All you're going to do is just create this bigger gap between the haves and the have-nots. And guess what? We can control our own economy. And it'll get to the point where people won't even go to your stores and buy stuff. You will be restricted to a small location, a small area. Why? Because Black people won't be, and minority people won't be able to go there, won't be able to shop there, won't be able to do business there. And so we'll be forced to do business ourselves. It's almost like if you look at what happened with the Asians as like a little study, you know, it's a smaller subset of them, but they were denied access to certain areas. So while they was giving us so-called equal opportunity and everybody was telling us go to college, graduate, get a job, they was forced into the Black community to do business because nobody would let them open up businesses in other places. So you have more Asian restaurants and nail shops and any other thing that they offer in our urban communities. Always have. And now they haven't done the best job at how they've treated us. But because they've been forced to unite and pool their resources, and you will learn this on the next report we're going to go over, they are now the #1 earners in the United States of America. Some people would say, well, it's because they're educated. Black people going to college. There's a lot of our children with degrees. But guess where they're working? As a receptionist somewhere, as somebody's secretary, as a barista at Starbucks. No offense against any of that, but they got major degrees. So now we invest in all this money in our children, private schools, while they're growing up. We got some smart babies. They're graduating with 2 and 3 degrees, engineering, accounting, medical school. What are they doing? Working in a nursing home, but not as a doctor, as a medical assistant. What are they doing? Something other than what we invested for them to go to school and do. Well, so it's not, I don't think it's the education. Yeah, the Asians, you could say, well, okay, they so much more educated, but I don't know about that. Maybe the ones over in Asia, but the ones here in the US going to school just like we going to school. But what happened to them? They were forced to unite because we see them all as Chinese. You know, we so ignorant. We don't know the difference between Chinese, Japanese, Asian, Korean, Vietnamese. We don't even know that they don't all always get along. We don't know the difference in the language. We don't know the difference in how they look. We just looking with a racist lens, and we just group them all together. And so guess what? We go in a nail shop. We don't know if it's Vietnamese, if they Korean, if they Chinese. We don't know. We just go in there. We go into the Asians. We go into the Chinese to get our nails done. But because they were forced to pool their resources and come together, they have now outpaced even white people in earnings and revenue generated. Listen, Black people have proven to you all, we've been here for 600 years with all this abuse that we've been taking. We're not going to just die. We don't die when y'all get us on crack. We're not going to just die. Whether it's the crack, Jim Crow, you might kill some of us, but we are not going to just go away. It's just not going to happen like that. So guess what? You're going to end up creating, with all of this mess, an underground business community that even your people are going to have to shop at and interact with. Because it's going to be at a point where we can't go into these contracts because y'all suing folks for doing special set-asides to let us in, because we already know if we go and apply for the contract, we're likely not going to win. We may need some support. And look at farming. Black people are farming and growing their food all over the country. Yes, still some of us who are hooked on fast food, and yes, still some of us that's dying from cardiovascular disease. But there's a large and growing number of us who are becoming farmers, who are growing our own food. Now, they said here, 8 out of 10 Blacks in the state of Texas who applied for federal aid were denied. White farmers sue U.S. government over stimulus for socially disadvantaged farmers. It's happening in the farming industry. The U.S. Department of Agriculture was sued, for stimulus programs for socially disadvantaged farmers. All you're doing is forcing us to go and do for self. Support your local urban farms. Support your local food markets. Support your local farmers markets. Do for self, people. It starts small. Like Malcolm said in The Ballad or the Bullet, don't start off big. Don't get intimidated by the size of these companies. Start small. All right, so here's the conclusion. We're going to get to that. Although there are many takeaways from this report, below is a listing of the primary points to consider. The first one, the U.S. government has made some attempt to help people in underserved communities through financial and social programs. A majority of Americans continues to support these efforts. If you look at the relevant statistics of the results of these programs, is marginal. If improved through better policy and guidelines, their effectiveness would be improved and would stimulate the economy. Yeah, because what happens is these people with the big bully stick and they're taking people to court. Sometimes when we get afraid or we get nervous, and some of us we've had so much trauma, we automatically think, well, they win. And the majority of people think like that. So then we do the same thing. We go, okay, well, white people this or black people that. We do all this colonizers generalization and categorizing, but everybody don't think like this. And there are solutions outside of this. These people don't run the world. You and I just need to know what's happening so that we go deeper into our support for one another and our support for people who support us. So we should be supporting one another, and we should be supporting people who support us. So if there's a white person, a Hispanic person, an Asian person, if we're like-minded, we should be all as like-minded people supporting one another. Okay, Black people should make a concerted effort to support one another. That should be our number one priority. So the next time you got to go to the grocery store, right now, summer is about to come to an end. See if there's a Black farmers market in your community and go there. We got to get up and do something for ourselves. These people do not have the power. They might be shutting down certain organizations, but the power is in the people. The power is in us. The power is in our choices, in our decisions. The reason why this stuff is able to stick and these people are able to win is because they're using their advertising dollars and the propaganda to brainwash everybody, and we believe in what it is that they're saying. But if we change our mindset, start listening to something different, start reading something different, pick up a lecture by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It ain't all about what they say it is. He's not a hater. He's never taught us to be violent. He's teaching us how to get around these type of things that are happening, that are starving us out in our community. And he's teaching us how to go about the community and be good citizens and be responsible citizens. He's teaching us how to become gods. Listen sometimes. Because all of this is going to affect more than just, it's going to affect everybody. These lawsuits, this kind of stuff, it's going to affect a lot of people. I know I didn't stick to the conclusion, but I just wanted us to talk about that. Thank you all for chiming in. Brother Garland said, I lived in Korea for a year. Koreans don't get along with the Japanese. Yeah, I spent a little time in Seoul. And I remember I came from Seoul. I came to Seoul from Beijing. And when they picked us up at the airport, they said, okay, we let y'all go up to y'all room and let y'all wash the china off of yourselves. But when they get over here, they're forced to stick together, is what we're saying. Brother Robin 11 said the Jews went door to door for a long time financing their future. Yeah, everybody who went door to door. Give us a chance to go door to door and finance our future. Yes, Sister Sandra, we are being forced to unite and do for self. So I love it. We have to stop the bull crap. Yes, ma'am, sis. Yes, yes, and yes. All right, family. So with that, we are going to continue tomorrow with part 2 of this discussion. Bring your questions, bring your comments. Let's talk about how we can strategize. We may need to start filing some lawsuits ourselves. We got a lot of Black lawyers. So some of the Black lawyers get on here. You might have to take a few pro bono cases here and there. You may have to pool our resources in order to pay them. I'm sorry, I didn't turn the light on today, so I'm looking a little unlit. But anyway, y'all can still hear me good enough, even though my lighting isn't good. So yeah, we're going to continue tomorrow. Support the network, support the channel. Go to Love Offering, give a Cash App, Sajdah Enterprises. If you like this information, if this type of information is helping you to strategize, please make sure that you share. You can go to Facebook and share it. It's also LinkedIn as well, and YouTube. I have some announcements coming up. I've been quietly working like a busy little bee. So I got some announcements about Sajdah House coming up. I got some announcements about some new products coming up. So stay close and stay tuned. If you want to book me for a coaching session, I keep telling y'all, book it now. Go to booksajdahwendymuhammad.com, because when I get ready to make this announcement about Sajdah House and some of these other projects, I think I'm going to have to suspend my one-on-one coaching. So, and that's probably going to happen in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. I'm not going to be able to do as many one-on-one coaching sessions with you all once we start ramping up with Sajdah House, which is coming up very, very soon. So stay tuned. All right. Peace and blessings, family. I love you all. I hope that you have learned something today. I hope this has fueled you, got you excited. Please share this. Please share with as many people as possible, because it's very, very important. Okay. Peace and blessings, family. I kept y'all an extra 24 minutes. We'll see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum.
and I'm saying this to all of us, our people are ready to spend their money with their own. There's no time better than this for 6 or 8 of you to pool your money and look in the community and open up a store to fulfill the needs of our people, and we will support you. It's your time now. That's being a man. Supporting your own people that are in business. Going into business yourself. Think out of the box. What can you create that will put black people to work?